Hi, I would like to make this video about explaining to you what it makes to set up a business in Mexico, what the roadmap will look like for you, and for you to understand what are the steps and what are the timelines if you're thinking about doing business in Mexico. It is very important for us to make you understand how it works down here. Most of our clients, they would like to compare with their home country, how things are done and how things are going to be done here in Mexico, which is never a similar process or a same process. So let me explain to you 14 steps that we usually go, set up a company and explain to you how the roadmap will look like. Our first step is just the discovery meeting. We need to get to know our client. We need to understand what they want to do in Mexico. What is their business plan? So we can start making the legal strategy or setting up their business plan down in Mexico. So step number 2, after we know the client, is going through the legal strategy and set up the business plan. Now that we understand what they want to do, we need to start figuring out the legal strategy. In Mexico, we have many different type of entities. We have the corporations, we have the limited liability partnerships, we have pass-through entities. These entities that we usually use with foreign investment down here in Mexico. So once we decide what type of entity we need to use or we need to set up, we need to start now figuring out who's gonna be the shareholders in the Mexican subsidiary or the Mexican entity. It's very important for us to understand that in Mexico, every single corporation needs to have at least 2 shareholders. We don't have, as any other countries, a single member ownership. We will need to comply with this requirement by Mexican law, having at least 2 shareholders. Who could it be? Could be a foreign legal entity with a Mexican legal entity. Could be 2 foreign legal entities or 2 individuals, Mexican or non-Mexican citizens. We can mix that up however we want, but we need to comply with this, having at least 2 shareholders. What do we do if we usually have, it is a corporation that is going to be wholly owned by a foreign entity or foreign individual? It's that we allocate 99.9% of the equity to an individual or entity and the 0.1% to another one. Just to comply with this, but to keep 100% of control of that Mexican entity. Now, once we have that, once we understand what type of entity we're going to set up, we need to understand who's going to be the shareholders. If it's going to be a foreign entity, we need to get all the information that we need, all the corporate documents that we need from them, from the articles of the corporation, from their proof of address, to if there's going to be an individual, we need also have their ID, and some of those we need to translate it in apostles and bring it out like that to the Mexican entities or Mexican authorities. I'm sorry. So now a lot of clients ask us, is this something that I need to do personally down in Mexico? So our clients ask us all the time, is this something that we need to do in person in Mexico? And the answer is no. All of this can be done from abroad. Either sending all the documentations, we will take care of those. We will take care to comply with the formalities. And if the client doesn't want to travel all the way down to Mexico just to set up the entity, we can do it from them. We can draft a proxy or a power of attorney that will sign all the necessary documents on their behalf. So far, once we have all the information now that we needed, we need to start drafting the articles of incorporation. The articles of incorporation are going to be drafted depending on who's going to be the owners of that company, and if it's going to be a joint venture, it's going to be a wholly owned, or it's going to be a Mexican also partner going on there. That's where we get in and structure the bylaws to the best fit of that project. Once we have the bylaws, we need to go down with the Mexican notary public. This is our step number 5. Just to recap, our first step number 1 was the discovery meeting. Second was to set up this legal strategy. The third process is filing for getting all the information needed. Step number 4 is going to be our drafting the bylaws. And then With step number 5, we'll need to file for the authorization of the name of the company. And once it's approved, we'll need to go down to the notary public and sign it. Sign the deed. I want to clarify that in Mexico, the articles of incorporation, the operating agreement, and the bylaws are in a single document that is issued by the notary public. So very important to understand that this is one single document. Once we go after that, we need to register that company for the public registry of commerce. And now that is registered, we have a legally binding an existing company. This step number 1 to 6, it will take about 6 weeks to 8 weeks to go. So it's very important to understand that it's going to pass maybe a month and a half or 2 up until this moment. After that, what we need to do is we need to register that company before the tax authorities. That's also going to take about a few weeks or 4 weeks, because we need to first get the tax ID number, which needs to be obtained directly from the tax authorities' offices. And then we need to get our digital signature, which is used to issue invoices and to file for tax returns down in Mexico. So this process is very important because now we'll have a tax ID number. We can now issue invoices, but this also takes a few weeks or so. After that, we need to register the company before the foreign affairs down in Mexico. We need to let them know, the Mexican authorities, who owns that company, where does that investment comes from, and some other general information. After that, there's another process that's quite tricky. It is setting up a bank account. That also takes a few weeks to get that. We need to go with the bank. We need to see what's the best bank for our clients. And this also needs to be done by a Mexican national or someone with Mexican residency. Very important for our clients to understand that. If they don't have already an employee or someone they trust, they need to figure out who's going to take care of all of this. Also, it's the same requirement for the tax ID number. So very important for the client to understand that when we go to these steps, we already need someone that is going to represent the client down in Mexico. After that, we have all the permits that we need, state and federal, for the operations. That will all depend how the complexity or the time for that will be, depending on what the operations will be for the client. But that's our next step. Then we need to also file for all the requirements for labor matters. So we are ready to start hiring employees, and then structure the labor legal strategy on what type of contracts, what type of rules, internal rules, and policies will the company will have down in Mexico. So that's also very important to have. And also one of the final steps is, if the client is looking to send some of their employees to live full-time down in Mexico, we need to take care of the immigration process. With that process, the first step will be to register the company before the immigration authorities to be authorized to hire non-Mexican nationals. And the next step will be to hire or to file for the immigration process for each individual employee. So this is an overall 14 steps that we do. If you ask me how long will it take for step number 1 to step number 14, think about a few months. Think about to having a fully functional operations down in Mexico. That's gonna take. It may take a little bit less, it may take a little bit more depending on what you want to do in Mexico, but it's really important to understand this process, understand the roadblocks ahead of us, and also what type of timeline are we looking for, so you can make a smart decision and start operating as soon as possible. So let me know, please follow me, and if you have any other questions, we'll be happy to connect with you and answer all of your questions.